Hey YouTube, Untamed here. Most Americans cannot justify a new vehicle purchase here in 2025. It's largely thanks to auto manufacturers and dealerships alike for pricing out their target demographics. In today's video, I'm going to provide you with some alarming stats, facts, and figures that paint a clear picture as to how we got to where we are and what comes next. So stick with me. Forgive me in advance, guys. I got a bit of a sore throat today, so bear with me as we talk through this. Or perhaps puberty is finally kicking in. Let's face it, the pandemic really accelerated inflation within the United States. But even before the pandemic, back in 2018, it was estimated anywhere from 55 to 65% of all Americans were living paycheck to paycheck. Fast forward to today, 2025, they're saying anywhere from 75 to 78% of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 3 out of 4 individuals walking around, they're just paying for the bare necessities, the essentials, every single month, paying their rent, their mortgage, just barely getting by, putting food on the table. That's not including any kind of discretionary spending or putting money into savings. That's not happening for 3 out of 4 Americans. They suggest around 90 or 91% of Americans are not saving anything whatsoever. So beyond the bare necessities, they have some discretionary spending that's going out and getting the new fancy car or buying a motorcycle, buying these additional goods, but not putting any money away for a rainy day. So 9 out of 10 Americans walking around, they have no savings. I mean, it's no shocker as to why so many vehicles are just stacking up on dealership lots right now. Look at the price tags. Look at the price tags at so many of these vehicles. Even the vehicles that used to be cheap. I'm talking like a Toyota Tacoma SR5. That used to be like a $25,000 to $30,000 vehicle. 30 grand was really the high end not that long ago. But now, walk any Toyota dealership lot and you're going to see SR5 trimmed examples in the mid 40s, sometimes high 40s. So that right there is a prime example. Heaven forbid you want a nicely spec'd Toyota Tundra. You know that truck that used to be quite affordable? Not anymore. Get ready to spend $75,000 to $85,000 for a TRD Pro or a Capstone. And I'm talking all vehicle manufacturers. Jeep Wranglers, they cost you easily over $50,000 nowadays. Heaven forbid you want the 392 with the V8 underneath the hood. Get ready to fork over $100,000 plus for it. Yeah, we're also talking like the Ford Maverick. The Ford Maverick was originally supposed to be the $20,000 pickup truck that you can go buy, the affordable 20 grand pickup. But now, well, you can't find them for that price tag. They're all $30,000 or more. I talk about it plenty, but I think it paints a very clear picture. The national average new vehicle purchase price here in Q1 2025 was just over $49,000. The monthly payment average is just over $770 per month. The vast majority of American households cannot afford to have 2 auto loan payments underneath the same household. They just cannot justify that nowadays. It wasn't all that long ago that you'd go spend $80,000 and go get a supercar, right? You can go get a supercar for that kind of money, but not anymore. Now you can go get a Ford Expedition, right? Or that Toyota Tundra I told you about. You get very normal vehicles for these astronomical price tags. It makes zero sense. I think credit card usage is perhaps the most telling indicator of just how badly Americans are struggling. The national average for your average American right now is between that $7,300 and $7,400 owed on a credit card at any given point. For a household, it's right around $9,500 for a husband and wife. That is telling because those interest rates on those credit cards, what are they? They're 20 to 25% APR. That is absolutely suffocating. And heaven forbid you're trying to start a business or you're doing some line of work that requires you to have a full-size pickup truck or a diesel truck, right? Get ready to fork over $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, or sometimes over $100,000 for a brand new full-size diesel nowadays. It's just gotten completely out of touch with reality. The national average new truck price just last year was just over $64,000. Over half of the truck loans out right now are over $1,000 per month. Then, of course, we have these tariffs being talked about. That just adds insult to injury, right? As if they're not already wildly overpriced, we have to deal with these additional tariffs that are going to undoubtedly affect the pricing to some degree. How much, we're unsure at this point, but people are still going to be pinched even harder with these price tags, making it even more unattainable. And you want to know what the most frustrating bit of all of it is? They continue to lessen the displacement size of all these motors, making them tiny, turbocharging everything, hybridizing everything, stuffing battery packs to everything, stuffing them to the gills with this technology and creature comforts that nobody's truly asking for. But what does that do? That just spikes the MSRPs. It spikes the price tags, again, making it more unattainable. And when they cram it to the gills with all the technology and creature comforts, that just makes it so you and I, regular Joes and Janes out there, are less likely to be able to pop the hood and actually work on our vehicle with any level of confidence, right? If it's hybridized, you got wires going everywhere, a smaller displacement engine, twin turbo, it just becomes overly complex, right? Whereas with a naturally aspirated platform, at least a lot of us can kind of maybe watch some YouTube tutorials and wrap our mind around that platform. Not so much these new generation vehicles. Let's face it, by adding all this complexity to these vehicles, not only does it bring up the price tag, it makes them much more difficult to repair. The repair costs go through the roof, which ultimately impacts insurance premiums. So again, everything's kind of like a domino effect here. Everything has its own second and third order effect, ultimately hurting you and your wallet. And I personally find it quite appalling that so many vehicle manufacturers are doing away with their bare bones, sparse down trims. These lesser trimmed models don't make these vehicle manufacturers as much money. There's a larger profit margin to be had when Ford, let's say, sells a Ford F-150 Limited or a King Ranch or Platinum comparatively to selling an XL, for example, right? So of course, they're going to continuously pump out a bunch of these higher spec examples because there's more coin to be made. So obviously the root of the problem does lie with the auto manufacturers themselves, right? They set the MSRP. They have priced out their target demographics in more than one way. And you can't lean on the dealers to actually help them out because, well, the dealers are equally greedy, right? They want to try to milk you for every dollar they can too by selling you these bogus extended protection packages, extended warranties, nitrogen-filled tires, ceramic coating, windshield chip protection plan, blah, blah, blah. They're constantly trying to push you and sell you these products that you really don't need, and they're all coming with a largely inflated price tag. What happened to just going into a dealership and buying a car? Just sell me the dang car for Pete's sake. But no, they got to sell you all this additional frills and packages and plans in order to, again, line their pockets. Do you guys remember when having a six-figure paying job was a big deal? Really, in most parts of the country now, is barely adequate to get by and keep food on the table, which is pretty sad. And I guess on that same token, do you remember when buying $1 million house meant getting something that Bruce Wayne would live in? Not anymore. New car prices are just too much, and people unfortunately are figuring it out the hard way. Between paying all their additional bills or rent, mortgage, cost of groceries, the insurance premiums, everything has got them feeling like it's death by 1,000 cuts. So people are just having a hard time justifying buying a new vehicle right now. And because of that, we're seeing the growth rate of new vehicle inventory skyrocket. Analysts are projecting that we'll have 10 to 15% more new vehicles available at the beginning of 2026 compared to what we had here in 2025. And let me remind you, we saw a tremendous growth rate from 23 to 24 and an even larger growth rate from 24 to 25. I mean, don't take it from me. Go to your local dealership, walk the lot, and identify how many of those vehicles are unsold 2024 units, carryover units from the previous year, likely to have been sitting there for well over a year at this point. So that's quite common. I mean, we're here at the end of May 2025, and we're seeing an abundance of unsold 2024s. And the sad part is a lot of these dealers that have those 24s, they have them because they just failed to offer tremendous discounts on them. They failed to get creative. They remain greedy, unfortunately. They kept them, and they're holding out for a buyer to come get it for not that much of a discount. I think a root of the issue is really throughout the last 5-6 years, pay and salary increases have not kept up anywhere near to what inflation has been, right? The cost of living, the cost of your house, the cost of vehicles, everything has skyrocketed, all while our pay has only gone up incrementally, very, very marginally by comparison. So that is a huge part of the issue here. So I'll wrap up the video there, guys. I personally believe that if you hold out a little bit longer, you're going to be met with an even greater deal on your new vehicle purchase. If you are one of the individuals trying to buy a new vehicle anyway, right? Most folks are taking the wiser approach and actually keeping their current vehicle on the road much longer. They're performing the necessary service and maintenance to keep it on the road. Instead of trading it in every 3 to 5 years, they're keeping it a little bit longer, maybe 5 to 7 years, or even up to 10 years, heaven forbid, right? They're realizing that performing that necessary maintenance will save them a tremendous amount of money in the long run. I do firmly believe that June, July, August timeframe here this year will be the best time to get the best deal possible. Really, it's right before the new 2026 units start hitting the dealership lots, and it's kind of in that frozen middle of the year, right? I mean, it's vacation time for families, kids are fresh out of school, it's beyond tax season, April, May timeframe, that's when people have their tax returns and they're throwing that down as a down deposit on vehicles. It's that frozen middle. People are paying for vacations, not so much new vehicles. So I think dealers will have to get very creative and get very desperate if they want to stay in business, right? Those flooring costs of all their vehicles sitting on the lot, it's bleeding them out, right? Every single vehicle is costing that dealership money with a small interest rate, but when they have hundreds of vehicles, again, death by 1,000 cuts to the dealership. So if they know what's best for them, they will offer tremendous discounts and incentivize interest rates to move that metal, especially the unsold 2024s. So if you appreciate this type of content, guys, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in for starters. And if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot, and I promise it does not go unnoticed. Until next time.